Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushua, Bashem, HaKadosh, double honors to the apostles and elders, great most that rule well, and Shalom to the prophets doing the work, saying truth. Um, yeah, I saw this in the news that Norway, which as far as for pushing for the MOTB and then going towards like a cashless society, they seem to be the closest. Um, so they were in the news because they had shifted to where they were apparently securing cash as legal tender in the country still. So this is on Crowdfund Insider. It says what Norway reportedly makes it easier to settle transactions with cash, but digital payments continue to increase globally. And it says Norway, which is globally recognized as one of the world's most cashless societies and economies, appears to have made it simpler to settle transactions with cash. In what appears to be a significant change in the trend towards avoiding cash transactions, the government and Reserve Bank of Norway seem to now be supporting cash payments. Merely 3% of Norway consumers reportedly use cash in their most recent purchase in a physical shop. So they're like pushed way further because I think it's even though the UK, when you deal with the metropolitan areas like the hubs, the cities, there's a lot more like a lot less usage of cash. Let's say like barely any. I'd really think in a lot of cases because like for public transport, it's not really used for a lot of places that you go to eat. It's like what they call supermarkets, or grocery stores, I guess, whatever the term would be. Those have those have a lot of what do you call it, a lot of cash still used. But then when you get to like the cities where you got restaurants, high street stores for like clothing or products or whatever, a lot of them will prefer only take card. Especially and even with those, it's like now since really it's gonna go into it further down, but since C19, since the pandemic kicked off, that's really when the big push came to kind of get way more people utilizing contactless, utilizing like their phones as far as payment, and that's not reversed since because it has like the appeal of convenience. It's like you talk to people and like most people don't even take their wallet with them. They just have their phone. And even like it's getting to the point where you can get things that you would need to keep stored in the wallet, like ID, like your driver's license or whatever. You can have those things available on your phone. Because all of the like little, I remember like Tesco Club Card was when I was younger, like not even 10 years old. I remember being excited to get like a Tesco Club Card because it's like if you get it, then get a Tesco Club Card, then it's like, oh, it felt like you got a card and you're an adult and blah blah blah. But now it's like you can use the app, and a lot of things use QR codes. And you can just scan QR codes, and that will like that's also filled in a lot of those gaps. So it's not just the cash that's been worked on. It's a variety of things in and around it as well. They've also been like worn down to where people don't really fuck with shit like a lot of that shit, and it's pushing the mindset towards where having it as an insertable, as an implantable, then is not really it's barely a stone's throw away because they think like, well, I'm already having to think about my phone or blah 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 or have you know to enter your passcode or whatever to your phone to do it, and they could just think like, fuck it, I'd rather just have it convenience wise, and there's no risk of you losing it or forgetting it. And security is another angle. But let me read on a bit. So it says This, according to to a survey shared by the nation's central bank. In addition, to address this trend, a key amendment to Norway's Financial Contracts Act came into effect earlier this month, which aims to support consumer rights to settle transactions with cash at retail outlets. Their efforts are usually intended to help consumers who may not be as technically savvy or familiar with using all digital platforms and services. And yeah, even with that as well, a lot of, well, when you go to the Georgia Guidestones is always a good go-to, is dealing with the elites. They're not looking to have that many people around. It was what maintain humanity under 500 million. That's going from what it's meant to be 8 billion now, plus going down to to 500 million. Even at the time that was put up, it was like going towards 7 million. Sorry, billion. So going down to 500 million was insane. It's even more so now. So a lot of the older being cut out of that isn't really that's not going to be frowned upon. And it's with the younger generation, they're easier to kind of indoctrinate to get a mindset into where they're willing to accept it. It's become normal. It's the same with like smartphones, social media. The generation has grown up on it. There's not even an outside of it or before. It's just seen as like that just is. Social media is the norm. So it's like so it says Norway's Norges Bank stated and clarified that Section 351 of the Central Bank Act requires that banknotes and coins issued by Norges Bank are considered to be legal tender. It also mentions that no one is required to accept over 25 coins of each denomination as part of a particular transaction. But the Act doesn't explain in detail what actually legal tender entails or implies. According to an update from Zero Hedge, one of the key justifications for the legislation is to support the approximately 600,000 customers residing in a European nation who usually find it challenging to make virtual payments. And yeah, that's the other thing is it's pushed as a something to aid, something to help. It's like, oh, we're caring about all the little old ladies, all the pensioners, all the whatever. As far as for a what do you call it? For an angle to where it would be justified. Most people would be like, well, think about granddad, think about grandma. We got blah 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 blah. But yeah, got to make it acceptable, got to make it all right for them and whatnot. But that's but underneath there's more to it. Because even I'll read this. So Revelation 12:12 says, "Rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." And yeah, you go to at the end, what does it say? However, the majority of consumers are still in favor of contactless payments with the rise of digital platforms and services, which was accelerated following the sea outbreak. It has become more practical for many more customers and businesses to complete all digital transactions. So, C-19, the pandemic, as I said, that was a huge push. And it's something that they, when it was there, it was pushed heavy. It was like, yo, this is, we got to take advantage of it. And it's been a huge shift. Because the thing is you look into this and then what would you get to? The WEF. Which, is it a surprise? No. Because says what this chart shows how preferred methods of payment differ around the world. So these things have been researched and looked into. And then it says what? Let me just skip down to the actual chart. Yeah. So here you've got share of respondents who said they prefer to pay without cash in selected countries. This is in 2020. I'm not sure how far into 2020. Let's see if it says. Well, let's see. It says Global Web Index. So 20th of October. Yeah, 20th of October. Okay. So what was it? The end of, so it was after C-19 had kicked in, and then it's not a surprise with South Korea being at a high, especially because they had heavy controls going over through this time where it was like you couldn't travel for shit, you couldn't get around for shit. So what's it saying? The WF's website, it says card over cash. Share of respondents who said they prefer to pay without cash in selected countries. So South Korea was 77, Sweden 74, Russia 72. Even Russia, they're gonna have it pushed as well. It's gonna be pushed there. Just it's gonna be everyone, all around the world. Um, so it says what, 67,000 internet users served across 46 markets. So I'm guessing there's more. Well, yeah, there's gonna be more than what they've shown here. But what does it say? So Sweden, so UK 70%, France 67, China 67, and China's getting pushed as well, and the UK has been getting pushed. I remember over here in the UK, a lot of places stopped taking cash at all after the pandemic kicked in. There'll be places where you could go and they'll still take cash, and then they were like, no, we only take card payments. And I think they took away like the minimum charge amount for taking card payments as well. Like there were a lot of places that did that. So it had a big push, and that's like a lot of how they kind of got into it. And then there was another one as well, because well, actually no, it was referenced in Hold on, okay, you know, let's just go back because it was referenced in here. What did it say? So yeah, as you're reading down, it says, "Have you read the benefits of a cashless society?" And I was like, imagine. So it's the reason why they're looking into it, and this was written a year before. This was even before the what was it, January 7th, 2020. This was before the pandemic had kicked in. So that it was something that was being looked at. So it says the first record says in WF the benefits of a cashless society. The first recognizable coins were produced in China more than 3,000 years ago. If you visit China today, however, there's a strong chance you'll see people paying for things using facial recognition on their phones. This is a radical shift, but it's just the beginning of the cash revolution. The new global payments ecosystem, including both physical cash as well as mobile wallets, is the result of the convergence of three large, powerful industries: telecommunications, banking, and retail. And if the private and public sector can work together to harness the latest technology and realize the full potential of a cashless society, there'll be enormous benefits. Eliminate the middleman, close the financial inclusion gap. And it's funny as well because that's like being used, so it's like it's presented as a way to make everyone able to participate and and be able to stop restricting people from payment, well, from being able to buy things or whatever. But the joke is with these systems being established, you have with these systems being established, you have, well, with the push happening is what I meant. The system being established, the push that happened over like 2020, you had a multitude of cases where Visa and MasterCard were able to withdraw the ability to spend money on certain websites. PayPal was doing it as well, but Visa MasterCard has a much bigger global reach, and it's like payment processing in general. So it's like, I think PayPal is kind of, it's a bit easier to circumvent, but when it's Visa MasterCard, you then will have to go to like a top up for like certain kinds of like payment systems outside of just using your card, which makes it like way harder. And it was like a lot of them will have to just resort to crypto, to where you're gonna have to use crypto to pay for things, which then a lot of people aren't going to go through the hassle of doing. The whole point of like a card is to make like, online payments and whatnot, a bit simpler. That's kind of a lot of the appeal. Well, really forced into it in modern society, but that's the kind of angle they push it from. But then this is like, what was it say? Fast forward, the shift is basically a move from physical cash to cash replacements with private companies involved in processing those transactions. And the issue here is they're saying like there's a problem with physical cash, but there's not actually. But it's that's the thing is with the push regardless. It's just something that they're it's a justification. It's a narrative to where it can then just be like, oh, people are like, yeah, well, I guess since and the thing is really it's just the convenience of contactless payment. That's a big part of it. Having it's like people have got so used to where you go somewhere you just tap and you fuck off. Like I remember even with like London Underground, the Oyster card being pushed was like a big thing, and that was like 10 plus years ago. Because I remember bro doing videos on it where they stopped taking cash on like the I think maybe buses might have still done it. No, I think it wasn't buses. You could still use it in certain train stations, but then you had to top up an Oyster card. You could only use an Oyster card, and for certain trains, you could buy singles. You couldn't buy like paper travel cards. And I remember it's like growing up, like paper travel cards were the norm. You would just buy like a day travel card for like zone 1 to 4, zone 1 to 6, zone 1 to whatever, and then use that over the course of a day, and it'd be dirt. Like it was way cheaper back then. But after they switched to Oyster, it would be even for like they would make the fares cheaper on Oyster as well, and that was a big thing. But now people don't. Who the fuck even wants to go and top up an Oyster card, let alone buy a paper ticket? People go into the station. They don't want. People used to queue to fucking top up Oyster cards or to tap the Oyster card. Be like, oh, I'm missing cash, I'm missing money on it, and they have to go and put a bunch of coins in and top up. That shit don't even happen. Now you can just go and tap your phone. You don't have to think about it. Even when they had it where you just tap your contactless card, you don't think about it. And that whole shift, that's the main thing that's got people drawn into it. All this talk about making it blah blah blah. It's nice. Convenience has been the big pull. And then it's a tool to fight corruption. All these justifications really it's about getting control over it. China's mobile payment adoption beats all others. India as well. It's kind of funny. No, USA was higher. When's this from? Maybe 2020 as well. But yeah, it's and that's the thing is this was like 4 years ago. Like now, it's people don't even need convincing. They don't. Real talk. People don't even need convincing. It's like Ezekiel 28:2. It says, "Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Most High Power, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a god. I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas. Yet thou art a man and not God, though thou set thine heart as a heart of God." Yeah, and that's really what the movement of cash to these systems, the contactless systems, cashless system, is for. It's basically a matter of control. It's a matter of establishing power over people's ability to use and spend money. Just like I said with the Visa MasterCard cutting people off from accepting payment or being able to pay at certain locations. That lets you, it clues you into how it can be utilized once it's established. And then the CBDC, having it on a country level where it's put out by the central bank, the virtual currency, that's an even greater level of control. And then the appeal of that as well is, being off the grid, but then the vast majority of ways people engage with, with cryptocurrency, it's trackable to the actual person, to their bank account, to their name. And then once you have that, then you can track all these transactions and see, and everything's on the blockchain. It can all be tracked and traced. Even if, if you're mining Bitcoin off the grid and then you have a wallet set up off the grid and then you just connect, then they're not going to know. But who the fuck is doing that? I remember I did it when it first came out. I did that. Shit was annoying. Shit was lagging up the PC. I was like, nah, man, I ain't going to do this. Then like later on, I was thinking like, damn, I could have made some fucking bank off that. It's like I fucking have a one of those off the grid Bitcoin wallets. I don't remember any of the details for that shit. I set that shit up when it first came out. But then that's the way most people are looking at it. They're not seeing it through that lens. But it's already at the point where people are just gonna comfortably snooze into it. Because why it says, "Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thou understanding, with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures." Yeah, he's wiser than Daniel. Esau's maneuvered and pushed through these desires and objectives with a huge amount of power and control. Because why? People have been put to sleep first off, and then after that, people have been put to sleep first off. And then after that, he's used his wiles, man. He's researched. He's seen, he looks into human psychology. That's a huge. You go through like the 1800s, 1600s, from post-Renaissance. You have a huge amount of research into philosophy, into how people think, how people respond to things. Studies done into all these things. Whole branches of research gone into these things. Because why? That's a desire of Esau, to have, to know how to. Massage people's minds into accepting what he wants. And it's worked. Because why? It says, "By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic, thou hast increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. Therefore thus saith the Most High Power, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God. Behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness." Yeah. Because you've managed to build up that wisdom, build up all those capabilities. You're now pushing through on plans which you've been beguiled into. But then what's the reality of it? Is you're gonna have an enemy brought against you, and then all these nations are gonna come against you to where they're gonna desire and accomplish your end. Even though everything you've established, you're gonna you'll be able to establish the MOTB, that micro C-hip, that implantable, but you ain't gonna receive the fullness of your kingdom. When you're about to fill your belly, that's when it will it'll be switched up. You have your judgment brought against you. Isaiah 31, it says, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth." And that's a huge amount of these Jake currently. The majority are going to continue, they're on the teat of Esau, they're sucking off on his titty, they're sustained by him, and they're going to continue to be so, to their own destruction. But that's not new. Just like back in Egypt, it was the same thing. Out in the wilderness, you had a whole generation have to be done out, bar two. Because why? They're wicked as fuck, and they were lusting to go back to Egypt. To strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, your trust in the shadow of Egypt, your confusion. Yeah, trusting in Esau is going to be your confusion. That's the reality. The reality is they're looking at it like, oh, it's going to be, I'll be able to, but it's going to be to your detriment, to your own destruction. Because that's why it's like these things, there's, like I said, there's that soothing appeal, These words were smoother than butter, yet war was in his heart. That's the, it's something that seems like, oh, it's going to be, we're helping out this. It's like with Neuralink. What's the push with Neuralink? Saying, oh, you're getting some guy that can't move anything below his fucking eyelids. And then he's like, oh, he's playing chess. Oh, he's able to do this. Oh, I had so much autonomy back in my life. It's great. It's amazing. Blah, blah, blah. But then, what's the reality? That's going to be ultimately used to their destruction. Revelation 13:16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. That's where it's going to end, with, that mark, where without it, you cannot partake, you can't participate, you can't spend money. That's why you have that monetary system being consolidated. Because why? It's going to be used as as a means of control, huge means of control, the ultimate. Putting a owl through the ear and saying, Esau is my master. I don't ever want to go from under him. That's going to be made plain, because that's really for the Israelites, going to be the difference in Rome. You're going to have those where they're going to be like, no, I'm going to hold to this guy. And then those that won't. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Shalom.